Alexa, stop.
All right, welcome in everybody. We'll give it a few minutes here and let everybody kind of settle in. Looks like, yep, awesome. People are joining in. Excellent.
Are they just seeing you, Colin, or they're seeing you and me?
They are seeing whoever speaks. So yeah, they're seeing me right now. Yeah, and then as soon as we get going, it will flash and pan over to where the conversation's at.
Awesome. Looking forward to this conversation.
Yes, this is going to be amazing, honestly. And I will go ahead and get started because we have so much to cover today. And we are so excited. Just like Anne Marie said, this is going to be one of the most inspiring conversations, honestly, to kick off 2024. My name is Colin. And of course, it's our brand director, Anne Marie. And today we are here with beauty expert, scientist, and host of PMU Con, Zuri Dale. This is the kickoff of Perma's initiative, Beauty Inclusivity. This webinar will outline the mission of PMU Con, which is educated artists to build community and address unique challenges presented to the world of PMU for people of color. We are so lucky to have Zuri here today, and a special, special day. It is her birthday. Right. So if you could please join me in wishing Zuri a very, very happy birthday. And we are just very lucky to have you today. But before we do jump in, I do want to announce there will be 3 mega giveaways, 3 prizes for 1 mega giveaway in today's webinar. That first prize will be the #1 bestseller Ready, Set, Go brow set. The second prize, exclusive pass to PMU Con in Houston, the weekend of March 21st, hosted by Zuri Dale. And the third giveaway is free access to Anne Marie's Science Behind the Ink, which is a PermaBlend online course. This is a $1,900 value in PMU prizes. So please be sure to stick around till the end and we will announce the winner. And again, just wait till the end. We will announce that's 1 person, all 3 prizes, huge giveaway. And we are so excited. But with all that, I will go ahead and pass the baton over to our PermaBlend brand director, Anne Marie.
Hey guys, so happy to be here. Just one quick question, Colin. The prizes are, how are you? It's 1 prize. 1 person's getting all 3 of that?
All 3. It's 1 mega giveaway. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
That's huge. That's a big
Huge.
prize. And how are you deciding who wins that prize?
It's going to be a random drawing to whoever sticks around at the very end. We have a system that we have, and we'll just do a random drawing. And when you do, thank you for asking that, because when you do, if you do win, please send your contact information to the host, which is the PermaBlend account up top here. As you can see in your Zoom here, it's the PermaBlend host. Just send your information there. Again, I'll go over that at the end. But like Anne Marie said, it's a huge, huge giveaway.
Awesome. Very exciting. So let's get to it. Miss Zuri.
Hi, how are you?
Honey. Happy birthday to you, first of all. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for doing this on your birthday, and thanks for just doing it in general. I'm really excited. Zuri and I have had 1 very brief meeting, and I didn't ask her too many questions because I really wanted to get to know her here, because it seems that there's so much to know about you. And so I'm really excited to unravel all of that. And so, we're both professionals, we're both in the PMU industry, but I always like, when I don't know somebody, I always like to kind of get a feeling for their heart and just who they are at their core. And so if you had to describe who Zuri is, how would you do that?
Oh, wow. That's such a loaded question. I think that I'm so many things, probably to so many people in so many different contexts. But I do often describe myself. I think I'm a Renaissance woman. I seriously, that's the season that I'm in. I'm in my very liberated season. I am definitely one of those people who enjoys doing many things. I mean, I'm a sister, I'm a daughter, I'm a permanent makeup artist, I'm a researcher. I'm just so many different things to so many people. And when I really think about myself, it's just such a dynamic person. Just a Renaissance. That's actually really the season that I'm in right now.
It's really interesting because it sounds like you're a woman who has stepped into knowing and confidently knowing who she is and what her place is?
I am processing my transformation quite
Yeah.
transparently. I think, our journeys are not linear. I mean, we get there and we regress a bit, and then we get there and then we regress a bit. But most definitely through permanent makeup, I found some identity. And the merger of art and science has really, really brought it all together in a way that I did not expect at all.
So since you brought up art and science, for us at Permablend, the art and the science that come together is obviously the art of tattooing, both my brother and my dad being tattoo artists, right? And then the science of the formulation of the pigments. So I know what art and science means for me. What does it mean for you?
So for me, it's trying to identify at every level of the service that we provide, what are the scientific principles that underlie that particular thing that we are doing. I have a background in biology and chemistry. That is my background. I've done many things over the years. Right now, I'm more in health outcomes research, biostatistics, epidemiology, but really trying to figure out, with all of the things that we do and what we learn in these courses, like what are the scientific principles that make these things true? And how do we question at every level the things that we are doing? One of my mentors told me this, and it has stuck with me for forever, and I say it a lot. I want to give credit to her. Dr. Young, she said this to me very early on in my career as a professional. She said, there is no substitute for knowledge and skill. That has stuck with me, and that it's not enough to just have one of those things. And so when I first trained, I learned a lot of skill, but there was not a lot of technical knowledge that went along with that skill. And my scientific brain immediately began to question, well, why am I doing this? And why? I'm sure I was like the one in the class being the most annoying, like, why are you asking me these questions? Just do this thing. And I had to dive deeper into it for myself. You can't tell me 90 degrees and I don't understand what does 90 degrees do. And is 90 degrees really the way you get maximum saturation? Does that defy physics? Is that correct? And so I had to really figure out for myself, how do I get good healed results? And it is more than just the physical doing of the brow. And as a researcher, and if you're a researcher and people who are in research, that a question leads to another question and another question and another question, and you're forever down a rabbit hole trying to answer all these questions. And that's
the more we learn, the more we realize we don't know.
The more we learn, the more we don't know. It's like, as soon as you think you get there, then the needle moves and you're trying to, it's just a continual quest for knowledge. But that is really authentically me at my core. I'm a person that likes to know things. So with permanent makeup, it was just no different. I never expected it to turn into what it has done. It was really just my own curiosities, but
I love that.
Here we are.
And so I read on your website or on your Instagram, I can't remember, that you are pursuing your doctorate.
Yes, I am.
So jealous. I have a master's degree and I've always wanted a doctorate. My daughter's going for the doctorate and I'm so jealous.
But you've said it out loud now, so that means you have to do it. There's no reason why not.
I know.
Yes, I'm pursuing my doctorate. I received my bachelor's degree from Texas Southern. I have to say that Texas Southern did a lot to raise me, seriously. I got my graduate degrees from Texas A&M, and I'm pursuing my doctoral degree from Mercer University. And I will be done in May. I am actually at the final stages. I am at the very final stages. I'm no longer taking any coursework. I am at that place where I'm finishing up my independent research, and then I'll present, and then hopefully, which I'm not going to say hopefully because it's going to happen, I'll be done in May.
Amazing. And did you do a dissertation?
I am working on it now.
And do you mind me asking what your topic is?
Absolutely not. So I am an epidemiologist by trade. I worked extensively with COVID-19. I have worked COVID-19 since the onset of the pandemic. I've worked COVID-19 in many capacities. I worked COVID-19, as a first responder. I worked COVID-19 as a PCR lab manager. I mean, all of the things. I'm actually a global health expert for Moderna for COVID-19. So the past 3.5 years, 3 years, however long the pandemic has been ongoing, it has been COVID-19. So it was only fitting that the research work that I do relate to COVID-19. And I'm very particularly interested in the impact of COVID-19 and how it has impacted individuals who were infected with COVID-19, and what are some of the manifestations of long COVID, some of the symptoms, and how does that impact the organ systems of our body, what groups of individuals are more likely to experience long COVID, if you have a previous health condition, what is your risk for long COVID, just so when we are prepared for the next pandemic situation, we have some lens on who may be most impacted by that.
That's amazing, Zuri. That's really,
Yes,
I don't know
ma'am.
how you do everything that you've got on your plate. It doesn't bring up a question for me though. So how does us servicing clients with COVID, long-term, like COVID issues, how does that affect the PMU, right? I'm sure that's going to come
Right.
later
It does.
on.
It
Yeah.
does. And honestly, even prior to COVID-19, so what COVID-19 did was shed light on a lot of health disparity that existed anyway. So when we think about the average client that comes into our salon, particularly if you service individuals of color, while we cannot make this assumption, the statistics are strikingly clear that individuals who are persons of color have higher prevalences of chronic diseases, right? So diabetes, hypertension, high cholesterol, asthma, many of these things are contraindications in permanent makeup. And so historically, as artists, and many artists will tell their clients, they'll say, well, if you have diabetes, you cannot get the service. Well, if you have hypertension, take any medication for high blood pressure, you cannot get the service. Well, if you service people of color, you know that may potentially be a very large subset of your clientele, whether or not they know that they have a chronic disease or not, because then we get into communities of color who don't have access to healthcare, who may be coming into our salons not knowing that they have an elevated A1C and they're pre-diabetic. They can genuinely not know. And because I am aware of my clientele, these are conversations that we have because they genuinely may not know. And it's also why I talk a lot about chronic disease, even though most individuals are concerned about infectious diseases when you think about PMU. Bacteria, viruses, fungi, and that sort of thing. But the chronic diseases are just as important because they lead to some of the contraindications that we utilize to determine whether or not our clients are eligible for services. So what COVID-19 has done has further exacerbated a problem that already existed. When you look at the data and you look at the symptoms that individuals continue to experience, and even if you look at the published data, there are some chronic diseases where we see higher incidences of those in individuals who had COVID-19. Now, association does not mean causation, and we know that it does not mean that COVID caused a person to have diabetes. But as we continue to look at the physiological way that COVID-19 has impacted us, what we see is an association between individuals who had COVID-19 and increased incidence of diabetes is one in particular. COVID-19 impacted every area of our body. We now know it's not just a respiratory disease. Right. So when we look at people and what symptoms they're experiencing and how they are presenting to their clinician, it matters for permanent makeup because we are now in the post-COVID landscape. And many, many more individuals are predicted to have been impacted than who had than who may have even known about it before COVID-19. So we're already dealing with this issue of not knowing, and now it is just a compounded issue.
Amazing, amazing. So you're so eloquently speaking about that. Obviously, it's a passion for you, so I can see it. It's really awesome. So Zuri, I want to ask you, when you got into the permanent makeup industry, did you have any idea that you would have evolved into this person today?
Absolutely not. And I think that my journey in the permanent makeup industry is a good example of how you have a plan. God looks at you and laughs and says, I have another one. And I'll be quite transparent. When I got into the industry, I was a student. I was getting my second master's degree, but I needed money. I got into the industry because I said, well, how about I start a business and I start something and, let me explore permanent makeup. It was very, very new back then here. And I did not know any person in my reference group, any African-American person that I knew personally that had received these services. So it was extremely new. And when I took the training, people were kind of like, okay, what's that? Like, what's that? And so took the training. Immediately, I knew this is more than just a 3-day training. I knew this to be true immediately. That is what made it stay. I spent the first 2 years of my permanent makeup journey not really talking a lot about myself, not really sharing a lot, trying to kind of connect the dots to myself, but not necessarily sharing it with my platform. I remember, because this was back in the day of social media when you could post a picture and hashtags and you would get the likes and you would get the bookings. And the way social media is now, we have to keep up with the way that things change. So it's not the exact same now, but back then I remember vividly the day that I posted a picture in my graduation cap and gown. And I put up a post and I was saying, yeah, I got my second master's degree. And they were like, wait, what? You have been doing clients. Why did you never say anything about this? And this was during the time when I was not as comfortable in my liberation as I am now. I was not. I felt like I could not be both. I could not be a scholar and I could not be in beauty. I did not think that there was a place for it. African-American women were just kind of entering the industry. We really were just trying to find a place that was chartering completely new territory in an area where we already were not at the table just yet. And so I was just trying to establish myself as an artist. I put up the post. I cannot remember who said it, but somebody said, you should talk more about that. And I said, okay, sure. And I just started putting up these art and science posts, just things that I knew, things that I learned, things that I just understood to be true about the physiological systems and the way that these services, impact the body. And it just began to gain traction. And I would do a lot of things just on social media. People started to DM me and say, well, what is your opinion about this? And I would be searching articles and looking up the peer-reviewed articles. And I would say, well, it's not exactly my area of expertise, but I can send it to you and we can review it together, doing all of those things. And it really began to gain traction. However, after my first training, when I saw the healed work that I got, I knew. I said, no. This cannot be it. This is not it. This just is not it. And I learned very early on in my career that it was just more than just technical skill. You really had to develop yourself as an expert if you wanted to be set apart in the industry and if you wanted to do your jobs well.
Right.
This is back when clients were satisfied with just a picture on social media. Clients are no longer satisfied with just a nice picture. We used to would tell clients, do your research, and research to them was Google. Clients are now actually doing their research. So together we are changing and lifting the standard of the industry. But I know, Anne Marie, it just was not there. Some even 5, 6, 7, years ago. And so that is what made me stay. I like to do the services. When I do a pair of brows, and I do think that I'm talented, I look at them and they look beautiful. But every pair of brows is like an experiment to me. And every time I'm mixing the pigment and changing the concentration, I'm manipulating variables because I want to see after 6 weeks when my experiment is done, what does it look like? And so in order to get to that, I have to do the brow. And that is why people say, well, you're getting a doctorate, you work during the day, you do this, will you ever stop? But the researcher in me won't stop because it's an experiment every time. And that's what people don't understand. You're manipulating variables to influence the outcome. And that is what gives me energy. That is what gives me joy.
That's amazing. So what year did you start PMU?
I took my first training in 2018.
So when I got trained in 2010, the common teaching was that tattooing brown and black skin would cause keloiding, hyperpigmentation. So it was like nobody was tattooing women of color.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've really, in the industry, I feel like in a short time, we've come a long way because it was nothing.
It was nothing.
Right. Like women were not getting tattooed. And now we're tattooing, we're learning, we're creating for different skin tones, right? And I always view the PMU or the tattoo industry as an ever evolving industry. Mm-hmm. And so this is part of that evolution. And to me, that's so freaking exciting, you know, to have, first of all, to have this knowledge now, this better knowledge, right? Because we're still learning, but to have this knowledge now that we can take and now create colors specifically is just, for me, is just so exciting.
Right. And it just goes to show, you know, how technology, I mean, there's innovation in the industry. And as artists, we really, really have to work to keep up with that innovation that's happening like right before our eyes. And to your point, at one point there were zero, right? We were not working on people of color. And then by the time I came along and I started to get clients, a lot of it was corrective work. So now I'm like, wait a minute. You know, first I thought nobody had it, but the few people that are coming in that have it, it needs to be corrected. And right. What is the reason that, you know, women of color are being disproportionately impacted by work that is unfavorable? Right. What is the reason for that? And what can we do? And that actually is the reason that PMU Con came to be. You know, why is it that people of color, you know, do not have favorable outcomes, you know, when they get this service, and how can we work to educate? The truth is that, you know, people tend to, and this is just on average, service those who are in their reference group, right? I'm an African-American woman. I'm very proud of that. And so many African-American women come to me for services. But what we are seeing is this heavy interest in non-persons of color who want to learn how to appropriately and intentionally service this skin type. Yeah. So there's a need for it, right? We see people who genuinely want to learn, who want to do better by their clients, who may not have had a lot of clients of color, and they want to get clients of color, or they want to better service the ones that they already have. And that's great. That is great to see. That is amazing to see.
And so when this year, PMU Con will be how many years have you done it?
The third. This is the third year.
It will be the third year. So how have you seen PMU Con evolve in those 3 years?
You know, PMU Con, it's so funny. Let's talk about how it started. I mean, it was, why are women getting such bad work? Somebody came into the salon, the work was terrible. I said, oh no, we've got to do something about this. I called one of my colleagues in the industry, Shar Hilson, actually. She does a lot of lip neutralization. Called her up and I said, something has to be done. Like, I think I'm gonna have a conference. And I'm like, okay, well, you know, maybe I can get 40 women. Again, God laughs. He laughs at us. I said, maybe I can get 40 women who are interested in coming to this conference. This was in December. I called my event planner, okay, who I think may be on the call. I called my event planner and I said, hey, like, I think I want to do a conference. Like, what do you know about that? I'm like, can you help me? My sister was trying to help me find a place. My event planner, she found a place. And I said, I'm going to post this. It was December. Conference is in March.
Wow.
Conference is in March, posted in December, and people really, really were interested. And I did a survey. That's the researcher in me. I did a survey. I wanted to collect some demographics on who's attending this, who cares about this. And we saw that there were artists from 0 years to 6 years that attended the conference the first year.
Okay.
And we did a survey, the post-conference survey, and 100% of them said that they learned something that they did not know. So we expect that from novice artists, but
Right.
veteran artists, right? We're 6 years in the game. And so
Right.
it continued to show how a lot of the knowledge that has been shared is very, very surface level knowledge. And how do we go deeper? What's different about PMU Con is that it's not just getting a bunch of people and putting them on the stage. Everything about PMU Con is about the healed result, irrespective of what area you may work in. So if it's tiny tattoos, if it's areolas, if it's brows, if it's whatever it is, it's how do we get optimal healed result, and how do we go deeper than just teaching individuals the technical skill? And so it just continued to grow. The first year, individuals started saying, well, how about next year we add this topic and this topic and this topic? And I started to research some of these topics because I don't do every service. And, is there something applicable that we can get individuals to learn and understand about how to better service their clients and get better healed results? And it has just grown. It is an intentionally small conference though, because it is a very technical type of conference. And so as such, it just would not be fitting for it to be hundreds of people. Right. And that is actually very, very, very intentional. Every year, everybody's like, you're not going to open up more, but it does not serve us well, right? We'll be doing the opposite of the mission of the conference, right? It's not, for profit. This is to bring individuals in a space so that we can do a better service to our clients. And they deserve that. Our clients deserve for a better service.
And what I love about this is that because right now I feel like the industry is the wild, wild west. And so what you're doing is keeping the integrity of the industry and of the clients that the artists that need that information, right, in order to better serve their clients. And so I think that that's something that is missing in the industry, and so very, very important.
So I want to also say this. I'd be remiss if I didn't say this. I'm a person of color. As we've been talking about this, my colleagues, a lot of my direct colleagues in the industry are persons of color. That's my reference group. When I think about access into the industry, because when we really think about it, when you think about differences in people and the way people's lives turn out, a lot of it is just attached to access. Did I have the same access that somebody else had? It's not that people are naturally talented or maybe they were born with these gifts or God magically decided who he was going to give his favor to. It's access. And for us, as a woman of color in particular, we have priorities that often do not align with paying $3,000 for a course.
Right.
But we still want to do what's best for our families. We still want to generate wealth for our families. We still want to pay our bills like everyone else. So what we often do is we may sometimes take a training that may not be from an artist who may not be as qualified to train, just because we want an entry point, right? And we say to ourselves, but if I can I'll just take this training and the rest, I can kind of teach myself. That is systemic, right? Systemically, access to education in this country has not been equitable. We know that. And we see that even in the permanent makeup industry, because very often clients or students cannot afford to take these expensive classes. notwithstanding that these expensive classes are not even always expert level, right?
Right,
So
exactly.
that's one thing. But we take these classes where the quality of instruction is not necessarily at a high standard. And so what we do unknowingly is we perpetuate the same issue that we are trying to prevent, because we really did not have access, for whatever the reason was, to a quality education in this industry. And we are doing our best, and we're well intentioned. We're doing our best. We're trying to do our best for our families. And so PMU Con is not just about, trying to get a bunch of people in a room. It's also recognizing that access looks different for people. And we have to understand that expert level knowledge is more important than our bottom lines. And while we know that there are some people who will pay the $3,000s and the $5,000s of dollars, what we're doing is eliminating access for some people who are already on the lower rung of the economic ladder. And how are we empowering women when we are eliminating access? And I don't think we think of it that way. We look at it like, oh, I'm spending 3 days, but there's no other industry where you only spend 3 days and you make $5,000. Like, this permanent makeup industry has created some delusion. Well, I'm going to charge $3,000. I'm going to charge $3,500 because somebody else charges that price. And I think that people should charge what they are worth. And there are definitely some trainings that are worth that.
Yeah.
But we have to know that in doing so, we eliminate access. And PMU Con is just a way to level the playing field for some of us who just don't have access. I mean, I had to take 10, 12 trainings before I became comfortable. That's just with the technical skills, right? And so we know how much that costs, to do something like that. And so now we are just trying to bring women in a space where you may not get everything, but you'll get something. You'll get a couple of things to add to your toolkit at a price that's economical, because I already know that access may have been limited to some of these, trainings.
Amazing. That's just amazing. The intention behind the conference is pure and amazing, and it's why it's successful and will continue to grow. So good for you.
Thank you.
So my team gave me questions because, I asked not to know too much about you in the beginning. And so I'm going to make my gaze go over here a minute, because if I don't ask them, they're going to get mad at me.
Okay. You got to follow our agenda.
So they want to know, at what moment did you notice that there was a gap in education and expertise for the PMU, in the PMU industry on behalf of women of color?
The healed work, for sure. The healed work was just not good. The healed work was not good. The skin was damaged. It was very difficult to even do corrective work on women of color because the skin was just so damaged. So I knew then that there was some disconnect in the industry, because it's all about the healed result, not how it looks afterwards. And so that's when I knew there's a problem here, and we need to collectively solve that.
So when you talk about healed results, and you're doing your own clients, have you made tweaks in the way that you work based on now your experience of all these years?
Absolutely. Because again, the way that trainings were done back then, there were these one size fits all approaches. I can give a really good example. One size fits all approaches, but based upon what I know of the skin, that's just not possible. When we look at clientele that's in the demographic between 60 to 65, and the way the functional and structural stability of the skin changes with age, there's no way that we can continue to service these clients in the exact same way that we serve clients who are premenopausal, one. And the way in which menopauses and drops in estrogen levels impact our healed work, the way that the skin thins and the way that the skin produces less oils as we age, and how does that influence the concentration of the colorants as the pigment heals. We can't continue to service our clients in the exact same way. I saw a lot of artists who overly do touch-ups on their elderly clients, when on average our elderly clients retain pigment very, very well and often don't need a touch-up just due to the structural changes that occur within the skin. But if we are servicing all of our clients in the exact same way, we're actually doing a disservice to those individuals. So I've definitely adjusted, especially in comparison to the way that I learned permanent makeup. But I have definitely adjusted with each client. I mean, on average, the epidermal layer in persons of color is slightly thicker than non-persons of color, but there's still even variations among people of color. And how do I adjust my pressure even amongst, people of color in order to provide really, really good healed results? So absolutely. And with every person, it continues to evolve.
So if I were an artist listening to this today, it would make me realize that there's so much more to know besides your technique, having a good technique, or which needle you're needing to use, right? There's so much more that we have to know in order to do a job and to do it well.
Right. And I think too, I think skill is relative as well.
Yeah.
And being a good artist, and I'm saying, I mean, those are all things that are relative. I have seen individuals who have work that may not be the same style as my work, right? Because we all have a signature style, our handwriting, right? But they have excellent healed results. And I think that right now, the way the industry is, we look at the aesthetically pleasing feed and we look at the pixels and and that's another thing. I have a whole opinion about perfectly round pixels, but we have an entire, we look at the aesthetics and we think that this is a person who is good because of what I can see. But the true skill of an artist is actually not at 6 weeks. It's not at 8 weeks. It's not at 12 weeks. It's honestly not even a year. What does this look like 2 years, 3 years, 4 years down the line?
Right.
But we have artists who are training after 6 months. So they can't even assess their expertise. They think they have, but they have not assessed their own expertise, right? Because they, just keep living. That's the saying says you just got to keep living, right? You can't let time just naturally passes and they just don't give it time to really see what it looks like. So now I've trained dozens on the way that I was doing things. And now we're constantly working in the industry to go back and reverse, right, some of bad habits. But I think we're all guilty because the industry, again, continues to evolve. Pigments have evolved and we're all constantly learning. I think the biggest thing that I want artists to know is clients booking with you is not necessarily an indication of your level of skill, because if clients don't know, it's not their job to know at the expert level, right? And so what we see a lot of is, I don't need that. I don't need to go to that. Like, I'm fully booked. But the booking is actually not the metric that we use to measure that. It can't be. We have to stop using that as the metric.
Yeah. And again, it goes back to the more we learn, the more we realize we don't know, and the more we study and know, right? So people are sometimes not, I'm sorry I'm reading this, but people are sometimes not aware of the unique considerations for performing PMU on women of color, people of color. Given your expertise, could you give an example of some of the special circumstances or challenges you've witnessed that artists might need to be aware of?
Sure. So I talked a little bit about some characteristics of aging skin. That's one, and that's not necessarily particular to individuals of color, but that's one of those considerations. One big one, and I touched on this a bit earlier, is the health, the prevalence or the any health challenges or the presence of any diseases that clients may have that are statistically higher in persons of color. Something else that I really work hard to get people to understand is that I know that in our classes, we kind of start out with some basic theory. We got epidermis, dermis, hypodermis, and we talk about the sweet spot and all of those things. But what I really try to hit hard is that what's interesting and unique about persons of color is that when we implant the pigment under the epidermis, The epidermis now serves as a filter. So when I'm looking at a person's brows, I'm looking through the epidermis at the brow. And the mass tone and the undertone of the filter is going to impact the way that the color presents itself. Not that the color itself has changed, but the presentation of the color is going to look different from client to client. Because there are so many genetic combinations that can make you a person of color, it is much more of a critical, you need to have much more of a critical understanding of how is the brow going to heal with this person's filter on top versus this person's filter. Because there are so many ways to be a person of color, which is why long ago, I debunked the Fitzpatrick scale. It was not representative enough. It did not do any justice in representing all of the combinations of being a person of color. And we've kind of had some conversations about that and understanding that, well, if the pigment is truly under the skin, what does that mean for the filter? And how do I manipulate in order for the filter not to have negative impact on the outcome? And I think that artists get in the monotonous habit of, oh, let me just add a little orange just because it's safe to do, right? But is this the right orange for this filter? And how do we ensure that we're looking at the skin deeper? And that's a big one that I really try to hit home, because the brow is under the skin. It's not on top. And you're looking through this filter. And if we're using the same colors on every client, and we just cannot be that way when we each have different filters.
That's great. That's really awesome information. So I have a question then. We talk about undertones and overtones a lot when we're tattooing, right? And trying to use that information to pick the right color or to mix the right color when we're adding a modifier if we need to for color. How do you, if you're working on brown black skin, how do you determine then the undertone and overtone of the skin? What are your eyes looking for?
Right. So first, I kind of operate off of a little bit of assumption here. I make the assumption that once the pigment is under the skin, it is going to cool off. That's first, right? So the assumption is that the pigment is going to cool off. And if the pigment is too cool to begin with, I can only assume that depending upon the degree of coolness in the skin, it is going to make it look even cooler. So the darker the skin tone, the cooler it is considered to be. And if the pigment is already extremely cool, then once I apply a cool filter, it is going to skew the brow in a cool direction of temperature. So I always make the assumption that with persons of color, that is going to happen. Now, the degree of that skewness is going to vary based upon their overtone, right? Yeah. And that's how I determine what exact color I'm going to use. But I make the assumption that it is going to pull the brow. It's going to manifest itself as a cooler brow just because the filter on top is cooler. And so we have to operate within that mode of understanding. I prefer colors that are neutral and warm. To combat that is that I try not to use colors that are too cool. Sometimes you cannot get around using colors that are too cool, but Perma blend, and I'm sorry, this is not just like I'm not just saying this because I'm on the call. And one of the my colleagues who in the salon, we use it. We have a binder with Perma blend's color chart that lists all of the colorings. And understanding and knowing the properties of the different reds, the different colorants, the different yellows will help you to know, is this something that I should use on my clients? Because even the reds are different. And how does this red manifest itself? So we actually go to the book. We have it printed out that you all have available online. And so we have a binder. Look, every sheet is in a sheet protector, just like in the lab. Every sheet is in a sheet protector. And we go and we look and we say, okay, well, this one has this red, this one has this yellow, but this one is in this order. Do we think this is a good color? And that's the level of expertise that we want artists to try to obtain. We're ever learning. It's not like I have it memorized in my head, but having access, again, knowing that it exists, it is really going to help.
Right. Using that information then to make an educated
decision.
Yeah, I love it. And I just love listening to you talk because you're such a scientist. Like even when you're just a scientist in heart, you know, it's just great. I love it. Okay, so I'm excited to be part of the PMU Con this year.
I'm so excited.
And I just, you know, I always say that we're always changing, we're always growing as a company. And I'm so honored really to be able to participate and to have something to offer, right? And as we evolve as a company, and our theme this year is inclusivity, right? Being better, doing better as we move forward. And so I feel like, again, this is an opportunity for us to kind of put our money where our mouth is, right? Like, you know, to kind of show up and be, but honestly, when I go to conferences like this, I come out learning so much and being so moved, you know. I had a great experience with Jenny Lynn and just like, it changed me after that conference, you know, it just changed me. I got to meet some amazing women and have some amazing conversations that really changed me and grew me. And so I'm always honored to be able to be in those positions, you know, and to take information and use it to better the industry, because ultimately that's what PermaBlend is about. It's, or like our company is just, we've grown up in this company and it's a passion for us. And so it's not about, you know, just a fly-by-night idea or something. It's about really evolving and keeping the integrity of the industry. And so I'm just honored to be part of it. So thank you for that.
We're so excited that you accepted our invitation to come out, particularly to talk about the topic that we'll be discussing in the way that pigments have evolved and how PermaBlend has done a great job of trying to keep up with innovations in the industry. And as things change, we recognize that we must change with the times, and it is inevitable that things are going to change. We don't know what we don't know, and we don't know it at the time that we don't. But when we do know better, we have a responsibility to do better. And it's just to see the way that PermaBlend is evolving with the industry. I appreciate that as an artist. And so I'm excited for people to really see that this is not just PermaBlend coming out with a new line. This is not just another item for a person to buy. The industry has changed, and we have to shift with the industry. I tell people all the time, it's okay for us to have an opinion. It's okay for us to think things. But when we get the facts, we have to allow our minds to be changed. Allow your mind to be changed, you know, if there's better, if there's different out there. And I'm so happy that PMU Con is the conduit to which we're bringing that to some of the artists in our community.
Yeah. You know, it's great talking to you. And I say this about, because I'm old and, you know, I've been around for a long time. And so to talk to you young artists and young entrepreneurs, your minds are so different. Like you guys question everything, you know, and you think outside the box. And, you know, for a long time in the industry, the information, when I was first trained, the information was perpetuated from one trainer to another, and it never changed. It was the same information year after year after year, until it was like, nobody's questioning this, and we're just passing on the same bad information, you know? And so now you guys question everything. And I think that that's what's been, I think the young people involved in the industry is really what has kind of propelled it to the place that it's at now, and has forced manufacturers like us to look at ourselves, to evaluate what we do and why we do it and how we do it. And so, oops, sorry, I'm getting a call here. And, okay. And so it's really been a growth all around, right? It's not just now, okay, now, we've got a new population of people that we need to learn and accommodate, but it's as manufacturers, okay, how do we do that? Right. I need to talk and understand what the issues are so that I can bring an artist to my chemist and say, okay, here's what the struggles are. Right. How do we combat that? And so that's an exciting place for us to be as manufacturers.
And I think, from my vantage point, like in our community, like we have to be okay with knowing that, again, like it is not linear, right? We are all trying to get there, and we won't wake up one day and just be there already, right? But if we have experiences, we have to learn to share those experiences and communicate those experiences in a way that they're well received, and be able to really share, with the decision makers what some of those challenges are that we are experiencing, and people who sit in your seat, who are decision makers, who have influence with decision makers, are able to take that information and use it as currency, because that is what people of power do. They should use their privilege and their power as currency to make things better and leave things better the way that they found it. But we have to communicate. These are the challenges. And even when we can't articulate, and even if we can't explain it exactly beyond my work is turning gray, right? We have to communicate that. And we have a responsibility to hold companies, this is not just Permablend, anybody, accountable to learning and growing with the industry. So I'm just excited about the collective, right? The collective influence that we are going to have. It is just, it just gives me such energy. And I'm so grateful, Anne Marie, that you will be there speaking.
My honor, my pleasure. So take a minute and just let's talk about why somebody wants to be a PMU Con.
And Anne Marie, real quick, I'm so sorry. I'm going to interrupt real quick because I think Zoom's going to kick us off in like 8 minutes.
Okay.
I do want to make sure we get the giveaway in real quick.
Okay.
And then also we do have a question from the audience, but I want to make sure that we do the drawing real quick.
Okay.
The camera shuts off, that we make sure we get it here. So I do got the name in here from our lead team. And again, I will remind you, the giveaway is you will receive one bestseller Ready, Set, Go brow set. The second prize you will receive an exclusive pass to PMU Con in Houston, hosted by Zuri, March 21st, that whole weekend. And the third giveaway you will receive is free access to Anne Marie's Science Behind the Ink, which is a wonderful online course. Again, this is $1,900 in PMU prizes. So this is absolutely huge, and I'm honored to announce the winner is Dominique Davis. Congratulations, Dominique Davis. You have won all three prizes.
Oh my God.
Do you know is it? Sorry?
I do.
That's awesome.
She's a new artist.
That is
awesome. That's fantastic.
Amazing.
Oh my God.
And Dominique,
that's so great.
If you could just send your information to our host, the Permablend, up there in the Zoom bar. Just send your contact information. We'll get in touch with you and we'll get everything for you. We're so happy to announce that. We're so happy to give away some really cool stuff like that. And again, Anne Marie, I'm so sorry to cut you off there for your question. That's an amazing question.
That was important.
So I just love that she's a new artist. That's amazing. I'm so
new
grateful.
As in like trained like last month or 2 months ago. Like she's very new and doing her thing. That is exciting. See, you know how the universe just works things out.
I love it.
Yes.
Great, Colin. So Colin, was there you said there was a question?
There was, and I do have one more announcement to make. This is honestly a huge announcement as well. Our Permablend Pro artist, Amina Sadiq, will be launching her brand new chocolate collection brow set at PMU Con in Houston. Again, that is on March 21st, the weekend of this weekend's gonna be crazy. I gotta find a way to get down there. But anyways, these brand new brow shades made from melanin rich skin will provide richer, long lasting brows, and we cannot wait to release this. We're so excited. So that is my last announcement.
But Colin, I do want to say, you guys probably know her as the Brown Lash Studio. She's been around for forever. She's very admired, highly regarded in the industry. So this is exciting. This is really, really exciting.
So
Huge.
great, so great. And she's like quiet as a mouse. She's like so classy and just graceful and just easy and just you know, just she's a beautiful woman.
She is very beautiful.
Yeah.
So excited. And so the question from our crowd, this is kind of a comment and a question. This is the little two-part here. This is from Cheryl. I completely understand the conundrum of being in beauty and science because I spent over 20 years in research when I started PMU. My background lends credibly to my beauty work, but I'm still hesitant to talk about my other activities. Thank you, Zuri, so much for sharing your inner feelings and struggles. I provide some confidence in that I can do both. And the question is, can you go into how you do a consultation? We got about 4 minutes left. I'm sorry, it's not that much time, but Zuri, it is all you.
You know, I feel like a lot of mine starts online. I'm very, very, very clear with a lot of information, a lot of health, you know, outcomes, a lot of those things, as we focus a lot on those during the consultation. When the client comes in, of course, by law, we're required to collect some of those medical history types of things. So a lot of our conversation is based upon that. Like, shares a little bit, as much as you feel comfortable sharing, about anything related to your health history that you think may impact the service. And I ask them to voluntarily share. And I talk to them about that because honestly, I spend more time on that than I do talking about mapping and those sort of things. When you think about individuals who are diabetics, individuals who may be who may suffer from poor wound healing. I mean, the stats are clear. Diabetics are about 21% more likely to get an infection, and that's from any type of incision, not just permanent makeup. So I spend a lot of time talking about those things because I want to understand the risk that this service may pose to their health. And we can talk more about that offline. I know we have limited time, but that is where the bulk of my consultation is. Is this going to create any adverse health impact? Is there any risk in you getting this service? And we assess and weigh that risk.
Wow.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's amazing. And a different perspective, I think, than a lot of artists might have in general, you know.
Right.
So Colin, did we cover everything that I needed to cover?
Absolutely. Okay. And we could talk for hours, and I wish we
I know.
You're amazing, honestly.
Thank you. You
really are. You're just a delight and a ray of wonderful sunshine in an industry that sometimes gets a little cloudy. So
thank you.
Yeah, thank you for doing what you do.
Thank you.
Yep. And I'm really looking forward to the conference, PMU Con. You guys, if you haven't registered, go and see if you can still get in. Just by talking to Zuri now, you can kind of get a feel for the good and in-depth and meaty information that you'll be getting. And I think that that's really important because a lot of conferences these days are just watered down. And so good for you for really transferring some good information to people that really need it. So I'm really looking forward to it, Zuri. Thank you so much for today.
Thank you.
I'm going to have Colin, would you send Zuri a link to the SBI, please? And let her take a look at it, because I think she'd enjoy it. It's just the science of the ink. And so I think you would enjoy it.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Thanks for your time here. And
thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, guys, for tuning in.
Bye.
So happy for the winner. Okay. Bye,
Happy
guys.
birthday.
Bye. Yes. Happy birthday. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you.
Bye.
I'll just tweet by Zuri on Instagram too. Please follow.
Bye.